All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to, what is it? May 19th MakerDAO governance, not governance call. It's the MakerDAO community call. This isn't a governance call. But yeah, welcome. So we use this call to kind of go through what's been going on in the MakerDAO universe over the last week. Every once in a while, we have interesting guests come on and demo products, demo ideas, uh, uh, get into the nitty gritty of Q&A from people. My name is David. I work for the Maker Foundation. I do community development, so I get one of my things that I do is I get the pleasure of facilitating these calls and engaging with the community and kind of feeling the temperature in the room, so to speak, sometimes. But either way, this is a weekly call that I do, and it's a way to kind of, instead of spending 3 or 4 hours yourself reading through things, you get to benefit from my labor of just putting it all on one single Google document, linking everything, and then presenting it to you guys here on this call. And before I get into kind of the regular agenda, this call we don't have a guest lined up, so it's going to be pretty sweet and to the point. We're just going to go through the usual agenda. I am totally open to ideas for guests, so feel free to DM me. You can reach me at David Utro pretty much anywhere, Twitter, Rocket Chat, the forum. I have literally the same handle everywhere. So feel free to reach out to me if you are building something interesting with DAI. If there is an interesting like debate or topic that you'd want to kind of approach in this call, I've been meaning to try to set up more conversational formats here, but it's kind of worked out that the natural format of this call is really like an update of what's been going on for the last week. But nevertheless, I'm always happy to shake things up and make things more interesting for people. So all right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and we can get started. And feel free to jump in at any point of the call if you have a microphone, or if you don't, feel free to message in the chat. Happy to read it out and kind of address any comments, questions, to be a little bit more beneficial to you guys individually. All right, so so yeah, happy May 19th. It's been a remarkable 2 months since Black Thursday. I just thought that that's kind of insane how time flies. But a number of really cool things have happened this week. So this is kind of the TLDR. It's under governance, but this first one really isn't part of governance. Well, I guess indirectly it is. But the big piece of news is that SCD shutdown happened. It happened on the community call last week. We had a watch party and we shared some stories and we even did a live conversion of some Psi into ETH. So SCD shutdown happened with no known issues. Judging by Reddit and the forums, yeah, there was no serious user experience problems. Everything seems to be going all right. If you were to look at the stats for how much Psi is left, I think there's still about 8 million Psi. So we haven't seen an extremely large amount of people converting their Psi into ETH. I think that there is currently kind of this funny like collector's item sentiment slash meme that's going around Psi holders. But kind of to ruin the party a little bit, there is a mock function, so you could actually still issue Psi with ETH if you wanted to. So Psi isn't exactly like ever going to be a rare token that is only accessible if you had a CDP before the shutdown. That's just simply not true. But nevertheless, yeah, Psi is now a claim on ETH, and I actually should have thrown the numbers in here, but I think I have the number from last week's agenda somewhere here. No, I don't, I guess. Well, it comes out to be 0.005 something ETH a piece, and at today's price, one Psi is worth about $1 and like 7 or 8 cents of ETH because ETH appreciated. So the system settled at a price of $189.20. And yeah, so we can put that in the history book and move forward to bigger and better things as a community. Uh, Another interesting piece of news that I threw in the TLDR. So by we, I mean the governance community, specifically in the forums, will be trialing the use of SourceCred on the Maker forum, starting in June for 3 months potentially. And if you've never heard of SourceCred, don't blame you, because I also didn't before before the community started talking about it. Oh yeah. Okay, sorry, got distracted by the chat. So yeah, SourceCred is this project that one of the innovations that they do is they pay contributors based on all of the kind of data that they can collect on them in the forums. So things like liked posts, comments, like shared posts, all of that kind of puts together a profile for each individual, and based on those metrics, you as the payee can decide how much to give your contributors. And that's kind of like the gist of the idea from like a million miles in the sky. But the actual details for how it's going to be implemented in uh, in the Maker forum is really interesting. Long for Wisdom gets into the nitty gritty here. So if you're interested in this, definitely check it out. But some of the main points, some of the main goals of this initiative are to scale the contributor base and also the quality of the contributors. The successful trial is going to result in DAI adoption for similar setups on other projects. So in implementing this, all of the payouts that are going to go to the contributors in the governance community are going to be paid out in DAI. And then also we hope to increase voting participation, positively impact it, both in terms of volume and in terms of hopefully better awareness of the issues by actual MKR holders. And in general, we want people to be more engaged with the forums, and this is kind of a way to try to spin a monetary incentive, a mild monetary incentive into the mix. So this is a really interesting social experiment. I'm gonna read the chat in just a second after I get through this. Uh, so just hold tight. Yeah. So through this trial, we're gonna be distributing around 5K DAI per month. So if it's gonna run for 3 months, our budget is about 15,000 DAI to be rewarded to regular and quality contributors in the governance community. As I mentioned before, the rewards are going to be based on recent and historical participation in the forum, posts, replies, likes, all that good stuff. And then here, just for visibility, I copied the timeline from the forum thread. This coming Thursday on the 21st, during the governance call, there's going to be a presentation from SourceCred talking about this trial. Then on the same day, they're going to be posting a forum poll to basically get sign off from the community. 10 days later, on the 31st, the forum poll will end. So it's a 10-day forum poll. And then if the poll succeeds and people approve this trial, it's going to run for 3 months. And then after 3 months, it's going to kind of get assessed, and people are going to look at what worked, what didn't work. Did this produce the results that we were hoping for? Did it not? And all that good stuff. So pause. Gonna look at the chat real quick. Yeah, Monet pointed out that one side gets you 0.00528555, etc., ETH. So yeah, and it settled at 189.19, not 189.20. So that's my bad. Akash asked, do you know what percentage of Psi CDPs claim their ETH? Can't really see that on diestats.com. Yeah, I haven't personally looked, and I don't know where the best place for that data would be. Maybe like anecdotally, you can kind of judge it by looking at this. And before the shutdown, it was what at I think 9.5 million size supply or something like that. So very little proportionally has been claimed. but the exact number, I hope somebody will do like a maybe some chain analysis and put up an interesting stat on the forum or in a Reddit post at some point in the next week or something. Akiva, when will there be votes weighted by MKR holdings on the forum? Ooh, that's a great question. Uh, so actually, I think it's in the want. Where is it in the wanted section? But yeah, there's actually, yeah, here it is. So we are looking for somebody to figure out a plugin that allows signaling with MKR on a discourse forum. So that's definitely something that's being explored by Long for Wisdom. I don't know where it's currently at. Uh, I don't know if they've found somebody who is working on a solution or if there was a grant awarded to a person. If you're interested in working on this kind of solution, definitely reach out to me. I'll happily put you in touch. Uh, but similarly, there is actually an initiative for getting NFTs working with discourse forums and in general having like ETH address connectivity to the discourse forum. So I guess that's kind of like also a stepping stone in the same realm of this hybrid. It would be really cool to have actual MKR weight off chain, voting in these forum polls. Because at the moment, the forum polls are, they're not Sybil resistant. Anybody can come into the forum, make an account for free, no skin in the game, and they could, uh, voice their opinions, which, isn't necessarily a bad thing. But obviously, being able to tie MKR weight with accounts will give a way stronger signal with regards to actual people with skin in the game, the real people who have money on the line to lose if the Maker protocol is mismanaged. Uh, yeah. So Monero, but the gas though, 23 Gwei safe low. Yeah, I feel your pain. I'm a weekly Maker voter. I totally don't like when I have to spend more than $1.50 on gas for all the votes. But nevertheless, jumping back into our agenda. All right. So some of the votes that are going on this week, there is one executive vote that started off, I believe, on Friday the 15th. It was, yeah, it basically petitions to lower the WBTC stability fee from 1% to 0%. It's garnered 7,000 MKR voting for it, but 59,000 MKR still sits on the old proposal that is active. So until this number surpasses this number, this will not change. And I think the current governance poll down here for the WBTC stability fee is sitting at 0%. So that tells me that there's a bit uh, of of dissonance or disagreement in the community about this decision, whether to lower it from 1% to 0%. And the core of it, from what I've read, is basically 0% means the MKR holders are fully taking on the risk of WBTC, and 1% is like, even though it's not very much in terms of actual uh, money that the protocol collects, but it's, people are arguing about it from principle, is the sense that I get, that there should be some risk premium that's being collected, even though right now we're in a place, as a protocol, as a governing community, where we want DAI to be uh, uh, in a healthy spot with regards to the peg. And as we've seen for the last two two 2 months or so, yeah, the DAI has been trading slightly above $1. It's become a lot better in the last couple of weeks, but nevertheless, it still trades at a bit of a premium, and the community is quite sensitive to keeping rates low, to make sure that DAI is minted, and to make sure that the DAI peg ultimately stays pegged, and stays healthy. Yeah, even Akiva mentions in the chat, I'd like to see WBTC MCR. So you're talking about the collateralization ratio lowered, but the problem is that there isn't precedent for, yeah, the minimum collateralization ratio. So what's funny is, so for those of you listening, every single vault type, whether it's WBTC A or ETH A or BAT A, currently there's only A types, they all have a minimum collateralization ratio, which at the moment stands at 150% for all of them except for USDC. Uh, but the only, yeah, the real like process of getting a vault type with a different minimum collateralization ratio is to create a B type. So WBTC will always have that collateralization ratio, but once there is something like a WBTC B that might have a lower collateral requirement but a higher stability fee, a higher risk premium inherently in that fee, that'll basically create different position types and different products essentially for borrowers. The ratio, yeah, Brian McMichael points it out. It is configurable on the fly, but whenever you mess with the collateralization ratio, like if you put it up, then people get liquidated. If you put it down, then you could probably make a case for putting it down without needing a brand new vault type. Uh, By the way, if you have mics, feel free to hop on. So Akiva writes, but if you look at Celsius and BlockFi, their ratios are super conservative. By super conservative, do you mean like very high, like over, like even higher than 150%, kind of like synthetics, or low loan to value, high MCR? Yeah, low loan to value, high MCR. Yeah, I mean, they are being conservative because the risk is it's high, right? Isn't SNX at like 800%? Yeah, SNX is something like 800% or 700%. But anyway, yeah, moving through. So yeah, the executive vote right now is to lower the WBTC stability fee. If it doesn't pass by Friday, there will be a new executive vote being put up. There's a number of governance polls. A couple of them are actually pretty unique. Last week we had an inclusion poll for the core personnel onboarding, which is a sub-proposal to add Long for Wisdom as the second governance facilitator, and the first governance facilitator that's actually from the community and not an employee of the foundation. So Rich Brown was the first and is the first governance facilitator, and he served in that role kind of as a prototype to try to spec out the role better. Yeah, so now it's time for growth, and Long for Wisdom was nominated and accepted the nomination, and now is being voted in to be that second governance facilitator. So this vote will end on the 21st. Yeah, voice yes or no in the governance poll. And if this is a little confusing to you, I don't blame you, because it's a little confusing to me. So last week was an inclusion poll. Inclusion polls happen to any MIP that is proposed in the beginning of a governance cycle. And a governance cycle, you could think of it as a monthly cycle. It starts basically, first Monday of the month. And so, yeah, there's an inclusion poll for any proposed MIP. So once the inclusion poll passes, it goes into a governance poll, which is what's happening this week. And then at the end of the month, it will be rolled into a executive vote. So this governance poll seems to be on the trajectory to pass with a yes, from what I've seen. And the next step for this before he's officially ratified and the sub-proposal is marked accepted is going to be at the end of the month after the actual executive vote. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, vote for the governance poll. All right, moving forward. So this is another really big one that came as a result of weeks of conversation in the forums, and I think even some conversation in the governance calls. But Sam M, aka Hexanaut, came up with a proposal on the forums to change the stability fee structure. Actually, I think I already have it up here. Yeah. Cool. So this is really exciting kind of for two reasons. So the first I want to point out is that, yes, that's right. Ranked choice voting is here. So that was one of the things that governance voted in, I believe, a month or two ago, and we've it's finally been implemented. So you can make first, second, third, up to pretty much any amount of choices you want to make based on obviously the poll. But yeah, so you could do ranked choice voting. And in case you didn't know what ranked choice voting or instant runoff voting is, uh, I'll just read off of this convenient little information pop up. So voters can rank options in order of preference. If no option achieves more than 50% of the vote based on first choices, the option with the fewest number of votes is eliminated, and these votes are redistributed to these voters' second choices. So this process is repeated until one option achieves a majority. So yeah, and if you have questions about that, definitely throw them in the chat. I'll collect them and try to answer them either at the end of this call or next call if I don't know the answers myself. But yeah, so I just want to quickly review what this vote is. So the change to the stability fee structure is conceptually, it was argued for because we can't keep adding collateral and doing stability fees how we do now. As you could see, there's there's a USDC stability fee adjustment, a WBTC stability fee adjustment, a DAI stability fee adjustment, which is actually adjusting ETH-A and BAT-A stability fees, and a USDC stability fee adjustment. So these are a lot of different polls, and so the stability fee structure is a proposal to kind of simplify things, and actually to bring things back in line with the original idea for how stability fees are meant to work in multi-collateral DAI. So I know many of you might have been familiar with this kind of conceptual framework where the stability fee for any vault is a combination of a universal base rate and a risk premium that's unique to that vault. So this pretty much yeah, it frames things in that way. So I'll kind of go through the point through each individual point, so that so it's better understood. So if this passes, it would replace all the weekly stability fee votes with a single global base rate vote. So now you won't have 3 governance polls; you'll just have one for the base rate, and this base rate will be used mostly for balancing against the DSR, for monetary policy decisions, or monetary policy based movements in the rate. So that's what the base rate is mainly going to be for. And then the individual stability fee parameters are going to be calculated by the formula. The stability fee equals the base rate plus the risk premium, and then this is just the modifier to get it into the right format. But basically, yeah, it's the base rate plus the risk premium. So if this passes, the base rate will be initialized at 0%. Pretty much nothing changes. It would be the same as it is now. And then the risk premium of each collateral will be initialized to its stability fee. So basically, yeah, yeah. I think that speaks for itself. I don't think I have to add any additional flavor to that. Okay, so then the risk premium of any collateral type can be adjusted by initiating a governance poll. Pretty much, we don't have to poll weekly for these adjustments. We can poll as needed when a certain vault changes in its perceived risk. Like, let's say, something fundamentally changes about USDC that greatly increases its risk of being locked by Circle or something like that. It's at that point that governance can do a risk premium vote to adjust it. So we wouldn't have to do it every single week. It'll reduce the overall number of votes, and it'll pretty much simplify things for governance. Yeah, so the lowest value of base rate will either be 0% or no lower bound, meaning negative rates, depending on the result of this poll. And as you could see, the choices are yes to allow a negative base rate or to disallow a negative base rate. And there, if you want to get into the discussion of this, I highly suggest you check out the forums. There's a ton of back and forth in the comments. Really, really great conversations there for helping understand or begin to understand what the implications would be of a negative or non-negative base rate. And then lastly, the DAI savings rate spread calculation that we vote on biweekly will use the base rate to determine the value. So if the base rate is 0 and the spread is voted to be 0, then the DAI savings rate will be 0. But if, let's say, the base rate is 1% and the spread is voted to be 1%, then I believe that means that it would be at 2% DSR. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, or anybody on the call who would know if I'm wrong on that. But I think
Sorry, I missed that last part there, David.
Yeah, so tell me if I'm right on this. So the DAI savings rate spread calculation, if it uses the base rate to determine the rate, if the base rate was, let's say, as an example, 1%, and the spread was voted to be 1%, would that mean a 2% stability fee or a 0% stability fee? I mean a 2% stability fee, right?
That's a good question. The base rate is like it's a plus factor. So we actually can't go negative in the system. So if there's a base rate of -2 and there's a rate of 1% on ETH, the rate would actually be 1% in the system because it would. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it would be -1 mathematically, but it would floor at 0%. And
That's
so
interesting.
I don't.
But that's a slightly different thing, right? That's
Yeah,
so you're
I
speaking
have to figure out
to
how
the
the
feasibility of
DSR
a
would work
negative
there.
rate. Yeah.
Um,
Haha.
yeah, I didn't read that deeply
And
into the DSR part of it.
no worries, no worries. All right, so yeah, I'll give you guys an exact answer next week then. But regardless, the same way that the DAI savings rate spread is calculated off of the stability fees now, basically it would just be using the base rate instead, and then the risk premiums would live on their own, separate, and wouldn't affect the DSR calculations. All right, so yeah, so I think that is pretty much some good coverage of that. And then the other governance polls that are happening this week are the usual suspects: the DAI stability fee, which adjusts the ETH A and BAT A vault types. That's actually winning at 0%. So still, it looks like that's going to remain at 0% for the next at least week or two. WBTC stability fee adjustment is also being voted on in the governance poll. I believe 0% is also winning for that currently. And then the USDC stability fee adjustment is being voted on. Oh no, sorry, I'm looking in another window. WBTC stability fee adjustment is actually sitting with a winning option of 1%, so the current stability fee. While the USDC stability fee adjustment is winning at 0%. But take all that with a grain of salt because these polls end on the 21st, which is in 2 days. Go out and vote if you're an MKR voter holder. Yeah, cool. So the summary of last week's Thursday risk and governance call is going to be out hopefully later today. So stay tuned for that. And we try to produce these for every single governance call that happens. And this is a great way to avoid an hour and a half to 2 hour call if life prevents you. If you still want to understand what happened in the call, our team of actually community contributors does a great job at summarizing all the bullet points, capturing all screenshots of all the slides, and then linking to the specific parts in the video for each section. So definitely check it out. It's a great way to interact with the governance call after it happens. So, all right. So here's a cool one. So some collateral onboarding status updates. As some of you know, MIPS were largely voted in last month, and part of that is voting in the new collateral onboarding process outlined in MIP 6, and then other MIPs that are part of that MIP set. But if you are interested in just a single page where at any point you can go and check out the statuses of the different applications for collateral onboarding, you could check out this thread on the forums that Long for Wisdom created called the Collateral Status Index. It links to pretty much every single thing you would want here, and he does a marvelous job of updating each individual comment here with the dates, the status, and all that stuff. So as you could see, what happened this week was the Oracle team did a few different reviews of a number of different collaterals that I captured over here. So everything that I didn't add to this list basically wasn't reviewed yet by the Oracle team. So I only added stuff here that they actually posted a review for. So DMM was rejected. So what's really cool about these different reviews is that Nick and the Oracle team, they actually calculate the potential lower bound and upper bound of DAI that would be minted if we added this as a collateral. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to include in this review, just generally. And the way he comes at it, it's very reasonable. And also, as part of this review, there's also a projection for the number of people that would be using it. So yeah, I found that really interesting. So and they're labeled with either low or high economic impact. DMM is a low economic impact with like an upper bound of 4,000 DAI, like 8 people to be customers, and also like it was labeled high complexity risk for getting reliable price sources because there isn't a very liquid market for DMM, and yeah, so basically the Oracle team rejected it from the Oracle side of things. So DMM has some work to do. Uniswap V1 DAI liquidity pool tokens was deferred. So this was deferred for 2 reasons: low economic impact. It would serve to create 4 to 220,000 DAI over like about 20 people based on people who hold this. And then the oracles was the main reason why it was deferred, but there's a very high complexity and risk, and this is specifically it. So using the Uniswap API would be completely centralized and allow complete manipulation of the oracles, which is a huge risk to the Maker protocol. So the better alternative of using on-chain data, it's not currently supported. So that would require some technical work, which, yeah, not currently supported. So this was deferred until a better solution came up with. And I think Uniswap V2 just came out. So this might, my prediction is that this is kind of going to get lost in the fray and probably updated to be like the V2 version of this liquidity token. Maybe, who knows? CHZ was rejected, low economic impact. And if you're interested in the numbers, I'm not going to cover the numbers for everyone. You could just look at the doc. But yeah, low economic impact, and then at the same time, high complexity and risk for the oracles. So given the lack of good quality sources, making the oracles price prone to manipulation, yeah, it's a high risk, high technical complexity project. So currently rejected. And then these are the 3 that were accepted. So TUSD got a green light from the Oracle team. It was accepted. It was deemed to have a high economic impact. The Oracle's review was low technical complexity. So given the simple nature and the abundance of price sources, it's yeah, given the green light. So TUSD is cool. ZRX got an accepted status from the Oracle team. High economic impact, low technical complexity in oracles. Mana also got a green light from the Oracle team, although it has a low economic impact because the oracles are of a low technical complexity. There's not any serious risk. If it's like low overhead to add it, not a serious risk. Yeah, from the Oracle team's perspective, it's cool. So Actually, going into here. So a few of the other domain greenlights that this will have to go through for each collateral, they're going to have to go through a risk domain greenlight, a smart contracts team domain greenlight, and then a legal greenlight. And then, so these are pretty much covering all of the major risks for each individual collateral. And it's part of the process of onboarding these collaterals. So stay tuned for the next status update. So Akiva asks, who is the legal team? That is a great question. I actually have no idea. So yeah, I really don't know. So I'm gonna give you an update on that. Actually, if anybody on the call here, I don't know. I know Brian, you sit on the governance calls and are just as active in the forums. Do you know anything about about like the status of the legal domain team?
No.
Do you know if there's like,
That's
would it be handled by the foundation, or are we expecting, maybe are we working with like some third party, or you don't know?
is the things I've heard is like we've got I think Brian might be the other Brian might be the
Yeah.
legal domain person. I don't know the status of the MIP though,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So also for context, like the risk team went through a governance poll where the community ratified the risk team, and the head of the risk team is Cyrus Unesi. A similar thing happened for the Oracle team. There was a governance poll that ratified an Oracle team. The head of Oracles is Nick Kunkel. And then the same thing happened with the smart contracts team. We ratified a smart contracts team. And the head of that smart contracts team is Mariano Conti. But this didn't happen for legal, and I don't quite know the status of it. So yeah, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Yeah, so Manuel, I answered your question. Who's the lead of each domain? So yeah, Cyrus, Nick, and Mariano. All right, no problem. All right, so governance at a glance. If you don't know about it, now you know. It's a really useful kind of singular thread on the forum that you could go to for quick links to any of the current events that are happening in Maker governance. Long for Wisdom updates this pretty regularly. There are two new MIPS that I'm trying to figure out how to say it right, how to articulate it right. So they are currently, I don't know if they've been formally proposed, but they do have, like, fully kind of spec'd out forum threads, and I assume this was probably also put up on GitHub. I assume these links to, no, never mind, they don't. But either way, so there's two emerging MIPS that are really interesting. One of them was posted by Long for Wisdom. The other was posted, believe, by either Kurt or, no, I guess it was also Long for Wisdom. Oh yeah, I guess because he's the governance facilitator, he's just posting all of these. But either way, while you guys bear with me while I'm trying to wrap my head around these things, I'm just gonna explain what the two are. So MIP 13 is called Declarations of Intent. It introduces this process of that would it introduces a process that would allow Maker governance to signal an intention to the wider community and optionally attach a monetary incentive to help make the intention into a reality. So what that means, like an example of that, which I think is probably the best way to explain it. I think he has an example somewhere down here. What he did. Oh, yeah, here. Yeah. So some examples, right? Like intent to shut down SCD, or introduction of ranked on-chain voting, or compensation of vaults. This is actually maybe the best example in my opinion. So MakerMan produced a report that he spent several hours working on, and doing the work of actually producing a liquidation report of the vaults and that whole episode of Black Thursday. Uh, this MIP would basically give governance the ability, or anybody the ability, to submit the intention of, hey, here is a project that we are willing to pay for. Uh, yeah, kind of officially documented that we are looking for this kind of work. Similarly, shutdown for SCD. Similarly, like introduction of ranked on-chain voting. It's not as simple as just like putting up a vote and like, oh, it's gonna magically appear from thin air. No, it kind of, there has to be work done around these things to develop them. Uh, so maybe also kind of forgive me because I might not be explaining it totally clearly. I've only read through it about half of it, but I got to read through it a little bit deeper so that I can better understand like the different ways that this is used. But in general, it is a, yeah, it's exactly that, the declaration of intent, and gives basically a bounty to a task, uh, and outlines kind of the idea behind it. So yeah, looking forward to reading more and understanding more about that. MIP 14, protocol DAI transfer. So this is a really kind of foundational MIP that in one way or another will need to be passed. I think just the details are very important. But MIP 14 defines a generic process for transferring DAI from the Maker protocol to a target Ethereum address. So as you know, right now the Maker Foundation is bootstrapping the Maker protocol. So work that the Risk team does, work that working groups from the community do. A lot of that is paid for by DAI grants from the foundation. And this isn't always going to be the case because the foundation intends to dissolve eventually as the protocol becomes self-sustainable and runs on its own. And part of that self-sustainability is being able to have a process of actually paying people. So this is the beginning of defining that process. So super exciting to see that, because I've been thinking and waiting about that for quite a while. So yeah, also look forward to reading through that a little bit deeper. And I guess next week I'm going to have a better explanation for how these fit into the governance cycle. But in general, if you're interested in reading about them and discussing them, and even providing some feedback as to problems that you might see with these MIPS and things that might you think should be changed, definitely participate in the forum. Any feedback is greatly appreciated by pretty much everybody. So definitely jump in. All right, so that's it for the governance section. I'm kind of gonna jump through the rest. There's not too much that I saw going on this week. Some partnerships, integration stuff. MoonPay partnered with MakerDAO to offer easier access to DAI. So MoonPay is a crypto payment solution provider. They offer developer tools and like a simple checkout interface for purchasing DAI with a debit/credit card or bank wire. Yeah, one of many. And so yeah, they're hopping on the DAI train. League of Kingdoms integrated DAI token into their game economics. So League of Kingdoms is a video game. Like I think they have multiple games under their umbrella, but basically you're going to be able to buy, trade, and earn with DAI tokens in their ecosystem. So that's pretty exciting. And we're actually seeing a number of gaming ecosystems do this, especially ones that are starting up with blockchain kind of at the center of their business models. And so DAI seems to be the preferred token for them. So that's really exciting to see. And a testament to the work of our BD team. Oh no. There it is. All right, and then the last little update I saw was buy NFTs and make wagers and DAI through Decentral Games. Decentral Games is also the umbrella above the Decentraland ecosystem. So yeah, they also incorporated DAI, so that's pretty cool. One blog post from the foundation: shake off your fear of cryptocurrency. The foundation writing team has been putting out a number of great blog posts for beginners, people who are just approaching the topic of cryptocurrencies, who are Yeah, so check out our blog. There might be a number of really kind of foundational thought pieces that you could send to your friends, uh, that you could talk about with your friends. They're great food for thought, and actually not a bad way to base a virtual event around. So one idea for virtual events is, like, you take a topic, you put it out there, have everybody like read something beforehand, and then you come into this meeting and you kind of cover the stuff that might, cover all the different facets. So yeah, definitely cool to see that coming from the foundation. So some highlights from the community. We are looking for feedback this week on a couple of things. So Jordan Jackson, who's on our product team, is looking for MKR voters to participate in this like super short survey. It's literally like 2 minute long thing. It would greatly be helpful. It's gonna help in our thinking behind the voting portal. So definitely participate if you haven't. And then we're also going through an audit of the community development portal. And if you don't know what the community development portal is, it is kind of this place. Sorry, I'm in a browser that I don't normally use for work. It's a personal browser. So yeah, so the community development portal, it's a few things. It's a collection of resources and onboarding guides and initiatives that have been kind of organically created through the community. But it's kind of going through a bit of an identity crisis. There's a lot in here. So we're currently rethinking the flow of it, the presentation of the resources, how we could better divide things to make it more intuitive for people. But if you're a person in the community and you want to contribute, this is the perfect place to kind of go and see your options. Yeah, we just have a ton of stuff here, and it is a little overwhelming for people who don't know what it is. Hell, it's even a little overwhelming for me. So we're currently going through an audit, and we're redesigning it, and we're this whole thing is going to get a huge overhaul, and the goal is to better engage contributors, better engage people who want to produce resources, who are interested in translating stuff, who are interested in uh, even participating in governance in a deeper, more meaningful way. And so it's meant to be the place for contributors to come and find a way to contribute. So yeah, any feedback or participation with this would be super helpful. It's a 10 to 15 minute activity. It's actually not a survey. It's a sort activity, which is kind of a cool departure from the normal. So yeah, that would be really nice if you guys could do that. All right, so some developer creations I saw online. We saw the Rye white paper published, which is yet another reflex bond version of DAI. I think this was done by Amin and a couple people from Metacartel. I forgot the other guy who was part of writing it, but nevertheless, interesting in a thing happening in our community or in the DeFi community. And then we also saw DYDX introduce DY which my understanding is that this is like Chai, but like the DYDX version, it just it tokenizes your DAI that you put into DYDX, and also like by default I think they use the DSR in the backend, so it's a really cool thing. I didn't give it the proper slow, meticulous read through that would let me absorb all of this information. So, yeah, the article is linked there for your reading. But I hope I got the general idea right. But yeah, so that's exciting to see as well. Articles I didn't. I definitely probably missed like one or two, but I didn't see anything that was like very noteworthy. And then the one notable thread that I grabbed from Reddit is actually the title is a little bit deceptive because the reason I put it here was mostly the comments. So MKR investors, do you still hope to recoup your investment? This was kind of like it did a really good job of collecting all of the negative, like all of the bad memes, all of the like real criticisms that have come from the community and from the public for the last couple of months. And what I really enjoyed about this thread were the comments. So A number of people in our community kind of have been going back and forth about their thoughts on a number of these points, uh, and yeah, it's just a super well balanced thread in my opinion. So definitely worth the read if you are a bit lost in your thinking behind public sentiment, of what's happening around Maker. Yeah, right on. And then kind of the last things that I want to run through, uh, and I will repost the link to this doc for you guys. And then the last couple of things, we have actually 3 virtual events, but 2 virtual events that we as the foundation are participating in. Kathleen is going to be participating in DeFi, MakerDAO, and insurance. And oh yeah, I forgot. I'm actually going to link this here, but if you want details on how to actually join these events, not just like the titles, how I have them here, but you can get them on this link that I'm going to post in just a second here. So you can go here and you could actually find the details for how to join these virtual events. And then the one special shout out that I have, if you're an MKR holder or if you're generally interested in collateral onboarding, there's a community organized meeting that's happening tomorrow on the 20th at 10:30 a.m. PST, also known as 1:30 p.m. EST. Yeah, so that's tomorrow. Here's the Zoom link. I don't think they posted a forum thread about it because I couldn't find it. But yeah, Leah Schmidt, some of the people from Centrifuge to Nake, I think Cyrus might be on there. But yeah, join it. I think they're going to be covering all of the collateral applications to some extent. But yeah, nevertheless. And this will be like, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be seeing more of these community organized calls be added to our community events calendar. And this events calendar is a public calendar. You could like throw the URL of it into your Google Calendar or iMac calendar, or I don't know if it's called an iMac calendar, but either way, you'll be able to kind of have access to a regularly updated calendar with some community events. But for now, this isn't on that calendar. So yeah, join if you are interested. Yeah, yeah, Manuel. I had asked, but they didn't put up a forum thread for this one. They had a forum thread for actually I'll stop presenting here. So they actually had a forum thread for the first one that they did a few weeks ago, but I'm gonna have to defer for now because I'm not sure where it is. Yeah, and I mentioned to Leah and the other dude that they should put up like forum threads similar to how Rich puts one up every week for the regular governance call. It would be super helpful for any community organized call to do like a similar thing. But for this specific one, no, there's not like a forum thread or an agenda that I could find, unfortunately. But things will be improved. Anyway, thank you guys so much for coming again on this lovely Tuesday. Hope this was informative to you. And again, if you are interested in me covering anything specific in this call, having a specific guest, trying a different format, feel free to reach out to me. Totally open to suggestions. With that, I'm going to stop recording